I'm based in Sheffield, and I suppose for my entire career, I've been very, very aware of how important personally place is for me. And I think that's kind of shaped how I think about the work that kind of happens to actually also forward what communities want from places, which is really kind of where my overall purpose and commitment lies. So a lot of the work that I do comes from a kind of deep participatory and regenerative perspective. So it's around the importance of revealing those kind of hidden stories, but working with people to go beyond just looking at what has shaped a place and what we see in front of us today, and some of those ever-present tensions between economy, society, and ecology, and really thinking about what could we think of those hopes and dreams for the future. So Ben referenced some work that I'm involved with currently with a brilliant organisation. They're a community interest company who are based in Sheffield, in Manor Castle. Sheffield's, like many cities, a place of huge contrast and division. And for many, many decades recently, Manor Castle in the north of Sheffield has been seen as an area that is not thriving, prospering. It's separated from a lot of the city physically by the railway and the roads that kind of cut off its residents. And over the course of the kind of past 3 decades, unemployment has continued to be a situation that many families have lived with for generations, that led upon with health conditions and challenges that have kind of come to kind of real visibility during the pandemic. And Green Estate are a really interesting organisation. They manage all of the green spaces on behalf of the Sheffield City Council in the area. And so they've always had this real kind of embedded approach. They are within the community, but they are seen in some ways as being also separate. So this kind of story of separation is really interesting, where you have a community interest company who could actually be telling a very different story and working with their community differently, but they also have a kind of separate relationship. They have done a huge amount of work around forwarding biodiversity. They created pictorial meadows, which some people may have heard about. They were a huge thing at the London Olympics, kind of the understanding that actually we could bring life back into our urban areas, and it would be joyful and colourful. But it's very interesting because, again, that story is a separate one from the residents who boundary Green Estate. So the work that I've been doing with Green Estate over the last year has been really focused on relationships, because I think that's at the heart of some of the challenges we have around place-based work. It's seen either as incomers parachuting ideas from outside and then not understanding what has actually played out for people who've lived there over time, or it's seen as hierarchical. So it may be that trust has been lost, and in a lot of ways in the area I work in, trust was lost with anchor institutions, with the city council, who residents felt had overlooked what was happening and in fact actually exacerbated some of the negative stories around people in the area. So we've worked very closely to think about that long-term approach and process. So this isn't a project. This is a way of actually reinstating a focus on relational work, and thinking about actually starting where people are, rather than actually jumping to a future and something that can quite easily create more polarization and separation. What's really important has been the rich diversity of stories that people have actually woven together. So we have people in our group who are immigrants to the area, refugees and asylum seekers. We have people who've lived there for 40 years. We have younger people who have joined because there isn't work or opportunities to go into further education, and this is a skills building opportunity for them as well, and something that can actually have an immediate impact on their future. So I think it's been really important to have that starting point. What's the value for the individuals, and then what's the thing that emerges as a shared value and understanding through people's stories. We're about 9 months in now, so we've done a lot of work which has been really kind of looking back. So what are those memories, those stories, and holding a lot of open spaces with open invitations and ways for different people to start actually building a connection, particularly with Green Estate as an organisation. On Tuesday, I was saying to Ben, we held our first winter community meal to tie in with the fact that actually in January there's very little going on for people in the area. And it was a terrible night. The weather was awful. And yet 25 people, we put up fairy lights, because one of the things was people never felt welcomed. They didn't know where to go. So we literally lit the way. And this was, I think there was a moment when we thought, is anyone going to come through the door? And then suddenly this little 8-year-old boy ran in and just made himself completely at home. And I think for the Green Estate staff to see people who they'd never actually seen come across the threshold of the place that they work in was really powerful as well. There's something that's happening, and it seems small, but it enables us to know what that next opportunity is. And it's the fact that we were able to offer a pay-as-you-feel meal. It connected with a local church group who work with a food bank. We connected with an after-school club who we borrowed all the lighting from. And so we're actually not doing it at huge cost, but it takes a huge amount of care, and it takes a huge amount of thinking all the time, what is everyone going to need to make them feel that this is a welcome place, and that they are welcome as part of this journey. So we don't have answers, but what it is starting to do is shift relationships. And it's starting to be something that we have the South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority now. And at that kind of regional combined authority, they know, again, this story of separation plays out, but actually having ways that you can start to see in areas where people are very risk averse about, actually, could it be something that would be overtaken by certain politics? Is it open to risk? But doing it with care and connecting with all these organisations means that there's actually a shared reason for people to be there.